I have a really good friend of mine, he's a medical doctor. But if I seek advice for some complicated medical case, he usually says, Krish, we probably need to consult someone who's practicing. Why? Because years and years he spent doing researches, so he don't have hands on. It is not that his knowledge problem, he's a doctor, he has a medical degree, but he don't have hands on. If you're a pilot, if you don't record flying hours, then probably after a few years, even if you're given a plane to fly, you can't fly it properly. Why? Because you don't have a hands on. Software architect or solutions architects are same. Doing years and years of coding, and then when you move to architect, when you become an architect, if you stop coding, then one day you become obsolete. Then one day you become someone, you can tell how to do it, but you don't know how to do it. If you're a really good architect, if your team fails to develop your solution, as an architect you should be able to implement it and show, look, this is how you do it. If you can do it, then you're not really a really good architect. Don't get offended. I know there are edge cases, there are consultant architects, there are architects who domain expert architects, there are various ways. I'm not saying every single architect should be able to code, but at least if you're a technical architect, if you're working on this development and implementation world, if you're designing solution to others, make sure you also can implement part of that. Otherwise you just become theoretical architect. Personally, me, I really encourage you code whenever possible, because it is must. You have to have a hands-on if you really want to be a good architect. Before we go into the video, keep in mind, this is my personal opinion. This is not the industry standard, or this is not something like a rule or a guideline or a process to follow. So this is completely my personal opinion, and this is how I build my career as an architect, and also this is what I'm practicing today to stay updated and stay in current. So the thing is this, as an architect, what we do day and out, we just go office and we do diagrams, we do presentation, and we go for meeting, and we go for meeting, we do diagram, presentation, meeting, presentation, meeting, 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 meeting. That's what we do, right? So where's the time to code? So I get that problem, because I am also going through that, and but I have few solutions I'm doing to overcome that. I'm following certain things, so I'm making sure I am up to date. I can code anytime if I wanted to. How I can do it? This is some guideline. I'm going to shed some light so you can try these things and you can stay up to date. Don't ever become a theoretical architect where you can't implement. That being said, you need to make sure you don't become the gridlock. What the gridlock means, no one can move because you block everyone. So that usually happens when you get the most critical part to implement. Let's say some framework codes, let's say some underlying mechanisms, let's say some core functionalities. When you get that to implement in your hand, if you can't implement because of you don't have a time and you're stuck with a meeting and other design concerns, then entire team blocked because they can't move until you do it. So give that responsibility to team. So you design it well and you guide them and let them to do it, but you can take some business functionality to implement, which is not a blocker, which is not a critical, which is not everyone is blocking because of you. But if you take some underlying core concept to implement, then if you can implement, you're fine, you're safe. But if you don't have a time, if you can plan it properly, then entire team and entire project eventually block because of you. But if you take the business functionality to implement, there is a huge benefit of that. That is, you can get the first-hand experience every problem that developers might go through. For example, when they want to run it locally, they don't have access to Redis, they don't have access to Kafka, so they have to do so many hundred workarounds, and then it killing their time. When they want to deploy something on the dev, there are so many extra steps to do because of the processes, so then they are slowing down. They may never complain, but if you implement a business process, you can get this a first-hand experience, and then that will be helpful for development team because you find some workaround to mitigate it, or maybe you change the process. So get some business functionality to implement. But due to various reasons, there can be a situation you can do it. Probably you don't have a time, or you don't have enough focus on the particular functionality to implement, or maybe that functionality itself critical and you can't like look into business functionality implementation. In that case, usually what I do for my junior architects and what I do for myself is take some tech debt stories to implement. There are some various technical debts in project. Take one by one, so you can involve implement those. In that way, you are not blocking the project at all. You are not blocking a business functionality. You are not blocking any of core functionalities. But these are tech debt stories, something you need when you go to production. So you can slowly take your time and implement those while the business functionalities implement. In that way, you get exposure to coding and also your tech debt stories are solving. So that way, like, you can make the balance. And also there's other way you can do is do a POC. That is more important than even doing a tech debt stories. Ideally, the POC should come first than the tech debt stories. But why POC is important? When you do a POC, again, you have a single stone, two birds. Why? Because then you can get the first-hand experience about your solution. Let's say you are working on a messaging framework, you are working on a Kafka, and you are working on a RabbitMQ. So you do some POs to see which one is more fit to you. So that you get hands-on experience, the problem might be development team is facing. And also when you work in the database, probably you are going in AWS, you may be doubting whether you go with the serverless RDS or like a provision RDS. In that case, you can do a POC and you get the hands-on experience. When you do these POCs, make sure you write the best code possible to do that. Why? Because when you push this POC code to your code repositories, your development team going to follow it. And your development team going to observe that code and like see your work. That way, two things can happen if you push some like bad code. One, your image is scattered, right? Okay, so architect coding like this, is this the architect's coding? Because they're very junior to you, right? They look at you and build their career. So they say, okay, if the architect can code like this, why we can? Right? So your reputation goes down. And second thing is, one day when the project is over, your POC will become a role model, and when you look at the POC, they will start to think, okay, this is how this project code. So therefore, don't like push some bad code there. Make sure you push the best code as possible. Take your time and implement a really good code, because there are people following you. And third one I usually do is do some automation thing, implement some dashboards and implement some background processors, implement some things which is helpful to the project and helpful for the team. For example, you can implement something like a health dashboard, where then you involve coding. You get like you involve grabbing stats and you storing in the caching and you showcase on dashboard, or something like event handling, in the sense like something like you capture database events, you capture Kafka events, you capture Redis event, health events, right, or alerts. You capture those and you like kind of aggregate those and produce on the dashboards or send the emails or something. Implement some sort of automation thing, or else like you can implement some tools where a code refactoring happen automatically, or detect some code the rules breaker like a lins. So do some sort of automation. Find opportunities within your project where it helpful for others, but if you not implement that, if you slow down, it doesn't block others. So development team will be love this, because I have hands-on experience on this. So I bring bunch of tools to my projects, and development teams love that because it make their life easy. Probably something like externalizing configuration through configuration portals and extending those to secret stores, and kind of a log management, different way of log management, or an alert management. Bring something to the project where team get benefit, but you get experience to code, but also project timeline don't get blocked because of you. And one last thing is do the code review. Code review is very important for two things, because as an architect, it's your responsibility to mentor your team, because they kind of grow in their career by looking at you. So it's good to always give their feedback, how to do it and what to do and what not to do. So code review is important, and also get some insight of the code. So if in case a developer absent or some problem come on the production, you can jump and say, okay, this is how this code works, this is the functionality. You go and look, probably bug is there, because you have some insight about the code. So code review is a must, even that doesn't give you direct coding experience, but it always good to do it, because that can solve so many problems, because you become hands-on and it builds your confidence. So today, Architect 101, I tried to show you why you need to code and what are the benefits that can give you. I get it, you may not agree, you may not coding, so you may have a different opinion about this. It's totally fine. And then I'll see you in the next video. Until then, Stay safe. Take care.